Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living, right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest is Mary Giuffra. We're going to be talking about a number of things today, but one of them is the 2x2 on the arc, the 5 secrets of a great relationship, a great marriage. You know, we talk about this today and we kind of wonder why we don't have a great marriage, and there's so many things missing, and we're going to be talking about that today. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist of 40 years and author of this new book, 2x2 on the Arc, The 5 Secrets of a Great Relationship. And she combines neuroscience, psychology, and decades of experience working with thousands of couples and supervising family and couple therapists, while her own relationship with her husband has lasted nearly 60 years. Wow. Bravo, before his passing. We're going to be talking about a number of things today, but I want to get right into it because one of the things that I do know from having very failed relationships is that we need to first have a relationship with self. We're looking for love, then we must be the love that we're looking for so other people can match us on the same vibration. Welcome to the show, Mary.
I love what you just said. It's absolutely, if you can't begin to love yourself, how can you love anyone else?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because they're going to love you in that light. They're going to love you in that frequency. You're showing them how to love you.
exactly. Exactly.
Easier said, though,
Yeah.
than done, because
Well,
most of us carry baggage, right?
we have inside in schema therapy, they talk about it. We have inside the vulnerable child and the
Hmm.
angry child and the punitive parent going like that.
Yeah.
That inside us.
Hmm.
And the children at all ages,
Hmm.
2, 12. Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
so when you're in a situation and someone does something and you react, it's because not just what they did, but what they did triggers something in you. And
Mm.
if someone invades your boundaries, it's different. I'm not talking about
Mm.
emotional people
Yeah.
invading. I'm talking about more natural relationships, healthier. And so if someone invades your boundaries, you have to say, stop. Let's protect your children and your adolescents and everybody inside you. And,
Yeah.
so no one can be abusive to you. You have to establish a boundary. No. And so we were all raised with the with novels and with television that if you meet the right person, you'll happily ever after. And then along with that, you have the love songs that say, I love you just the way you are, don't ever change. Well, that's the kiss of death.
Yes.
The kiss of death.
She's not the woman I married. No,
Exactly. Well, that's
you've
good.
changed.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be pretty terrible if she's 50 and she's still acting like a 22-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I mean, it's the one constant in life is change.
Yes.
So to say,
Yes.
I love you just the way you are, don't ever change is impossible.
Hmm.
And to say there's the right person, well, they may be the right person when you're 25, but they not be so right when you want to go out and have a career and leave them and do your own thing at 50 or 40 or
Right.
35. It
Hmm.
may not be so right then. So if change is the one constant, people are always growing and changing, then you have to be able to not hold on to who that person was or who you were. You have to get into the present and say, oh, this is going on now. That doesn't feel good, or that does feel good. And just share it.
Yes.
Just share it. When you
Yes.
say, I get anxious, or I feel annoyed, or I feel really, whatever it is, it's nothing to do with you. That's mine. I own it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to leave space for your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
for your feelings, for your sensations, because sensations are really important. You have to be in your body, grounded
Right.
to experience what's going on inside. If you're out in space or into another person, you're not containing yourself, and yourself
Mm-hmm.
all over the environment,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
have to leave space for love inside you. I say to be a lover, there are 5 things. You have to, first one is L, leave space for love.
Mm-hmm.
And that begins with loving yourself with all your faults,
Mm-hmm.
all your unfinished business, with all the parts you don't like and you want to change. It's like a child. No
Mm-hmm.
child is perfect, and you're not perfect. So you can't just love the nice parts of the kid. You have to love the whole package.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with you. Doesn't mean you're not trying to change, but we have to start with where we are. And so leave space for who you are, for your truth. Not to be the way you're supposed to be, but to allow you in public, it could be the way you're supposed to be, but you need to know your own truth inside and own it.
Before you go on to the next letter, I want to stay there for a bit. Um, we're so busy living our life from the exterior expectations that
Yes,
we actually don't even know how to turn our eyes in. And then when
exactly.
we do, it's like
It's
we
scary.
want to run from oneself. Uh,
Exactly. And
we've got,
it's,
no, go ahead, love.
no, go ahead.
One thing we've got to remember is that we are made up not just from our own life experience, but the experiences of our family, even past life experiences. It's all part of the DNA building up. And very often we have things inside of us that we can't recognize. We don't know what to do with. We don't know where it comes from. But if we're not willing to go in and do the work on it, and then don't expect just a quick fix or a downloadable app. It is as you would a vulnerable child in front of you. Treat yourself that same way and nurture that child with love, with
Absolutely.
compassion, and
Absolutely.
help that child embrace who they are. I call it flawsome
Uh,
because
but yes,
flawsome, right? Beautiful word. I'm sure you've heard it before, is that we're all flawed. But
yes.
those flaws make us up to who we are. So we can be awesome with those
We
flawsomes
were
as long as we
perfect.
recognize them.
If we were perfect, we'd be stiff and frozen,
Hmm.
because you can't be perfect. If the one constant is change, I'm perfect this minute. Well, there's a change. I'm imperfect the next minute, the
Right.
next second, for heaven's sakes. It's not
And
even a
what
minute
is perfection?
perfection.
It's an the in the eye of the beholder. Somebody looks
Bingo.
at a painting and oh, that's perfect. It speaks to them. Somebody else looks and go, what the heck are you talking about?
But how scary that is. Here's a beautiful plant and you squish it because
Mm,
you want it to look that way. Let it come with its
yes.
beauty to evolve and to be. And so, I mean, that's the whole thing with the book. I said in the book, two by two on the arc, 5 secrets of a great relationship. And what I said that for love, there are 5 things you need for love. One, you have to leave space for
Hmm.
love. And that we're talking about, leave space to love yourself, all the
Yes.
parts, the
Yes.
unfinished as well as the finished.
Hmm.
Space,
Hmm.
leave space for the other person. They're not perfect. They have
No.
flaws. You're not perfect. You have flaws. It's an occupational hazard of being human.
Yes.
It really is.
It's
We're all
also what makes
flawed.
us interesting.
Exactly. It'd be very boring. If you're always the same, it would be deadly. It's
We'd
like,
be
well,
humanoids,
it would be
right?
boring.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I read an article that said one of the most important issues in a relationship is curiosity about the other.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
if, oh, I know you, I know him, I know her. Well, there's no more curiosity. It's finished. They're dead. Like they're just
Right.
frozen in
Dead
time.
end.
Just be
Hmm.
curious. Why would she say that? Why did he do that?
Mm.
What, it doesn't mean you like everything, but you
Hmm.
need to stop, say, this is what you saw, and this is how it felt.
Hmm.
Give them space to get in touch with what they did and their response and your response. I mean, nobody's perfect. We're
And
all
don't look at it as an attack. All
exactly,
right.
exactly,
How many of us, and I'm guilty of this in my past relationships, of looking at everything as an attack on me because it was my own insecurity
exactly.
screaming through,
Well,
right?
that exactly what leave. That's number love. Let me tell you first. So leave space for love. Second one is operate your brains to love. We have 3 brains.
Mm.
Cerebral cortex is the smart human brain. It obeys the laws of logic. It's what you deal with in school. But then we have a limbic system, and that's related to our emotional brain. So it's emotions. They do not obey the laws of logic.
No,
Much,
not at all.
more like the weather. Today it's sunny. Tomorrow it's rainy. The next day is a tornado. There's a hurricane, and then it's rainy. It's sunny. It's much more like the weather.
Yeah.
And the weather in some ways is almost more logical. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Our emotions just come and go. So the first was leave space for love, space within you, space between you, and space for the other person, and let them be who they are. And you don't have to react to it. Give them
Right.
space. Again, if they invade your boundaries, it's different. Time
Yeah.
out. But in their own space, they can be who they are, or say, and just be curious. Try to be curious, not judgmental. So leave
Hmm.
space for love. Operate your. Oh, so it's the first is the cerebral cortex. Logic, reason. The emotional system is the limbic system, and then the brain stem is the survival brain.
Mm.
The survival brain is really survival, and it's where trauma happens.
Yeah.
And part of that is fight, flight, or freeze. So when somebody says or does something that touches an experience you had, it may smell like it may sound like it may feel like it may look like it that you had in the past, you're going to be back
Right.
there and
Yeah.
no longer here. You're not in 2023, you're in 2001 or
Mm.
whatever year it was.
Right.
And so you're not responding to this person, you're responding to whoever it was, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your boyfriend,
Yes.
whoever it was, your teacher, your abuser.
Hmm.
So what happens then is it's like an animal instinct that you want to fight or you want to run away.
Hmm.
And back then you wanted to fight or you wanted to run away and you couldn't.
You froze.
And you froze. Oh,
Hmm.
you're so ahead of the game. Yeah, I was thinking that
You're
when you said
talking
that.
about my
Wow,
past relationship
Sarah
here.
is really, she really knows this. So you freeze. And so that's for in you. And then 10 years later, or 5 years later, or 15 years later, your partner does or says, and right away it takes you back to that. And you're back in the past. You're back in 1900 or 2001 or
Yeah.
whatever year it was. You're
And
no
no
longer,
rationale, no logic to it. It's just the feeling
no
that's
life.
overwhelming, right?
And that's
Mhm.
your survival brain. Your brain
Yeah.
stem where the trauma is. And your partner doesn't know what just happened. You know what I mean? So it's very complex.
Yes.
You have to leave space. You have to operate these three brains. We need to know who's online. You can't reason with emotions.
No.
So if the emotions are coming out, don't try to reason with them. They don't obey the laws of logic. Looks like you can't reason with an umbrella. What you do is you can't reason with rain, but you can take out an umbrella.
Right.
If it's cold, you can wear a coat. If it's hot, you can take your sweater off. But you can't change what's going on. You can
Mm.
change how you respond to it.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
space for love is O is operate your brains to love. V, L-O-V, it's E. V is view your conditioning with love. We are all conditioned.
Hmm.
Every one of us. We're conditioned by our gender. We're conditioned by our culture. We're conditioned by our education. We're conditioned by our school. We may be conditioned by where we grew up
Or a religion. Yeah.
or our religion.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So you need to know that something that you think is just normal, and everybody knows that, may
Hmm.
simply be conditioning. Everybody
Yes.
doesn't know that.
Right.
Everybody doesn't
And
believe
what
it.
do you know anyway? I mean, you think you know it, but
Exactly.
do you really know it?
Exactly.
If
So
you
you need,
really knew it, would you continue to do it?
and Murray Bowen used to talk about family systems, and he was one of my mentors, and he would do every couple that he saw, he'd do a genogram, a family tree to go back the generations to see what were the patterns there. Oh, well, that dad drank and that one did that. And
Mhm.
they used to be very conflictual. They were very distant. And you look at it and you see there were affairs and the patterns go down the generations and you can see patterns. It's not just happening in your generation. If
Right.
you go back, you'll see the same thing happen. And the other thing that's kind of interesting is that we tend to be attracted either to people who are similar or dissimilar. And it may be if we get in a relationship with someone who's the complete opposite of what we've experienced in the past, the opposite's always the same on the other side
Hmm.
because it's reactive. It's not you know what I mean? Reactive. They do this, well, I'll
Yes.
get something like that. So
Or
it's
you think
really
or you think that somebody who's completely different and you're breaking the mold only to find out you married your father.
exactly bingo, bingo. I remember I thought that with my husband. He complete opposite of my father in every way. He was all my father's.
Yeah.
Was so cool. But underneath they were so alike. But I liked how they were alike.
Right.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense? So I didn't
Yes.
know
Yeah, that's
it.
good if you've
What
got
I
a
liked
like
about
there.
my father, I liked about my husband too. So it was a good connection. But sometimes it's not a good connection. You know what I mean? You see something similar and don't even know it.
Yeah.
And then your husband or your partner, wife, or your partner does something and you react, you overreact. It's not about them. That's about your past.
Yes. Yes.
And you
Your
take
baggage.
study your baggage, if you will.
Mm.
So it's leave space for love, operate those three brains to love, view your conditioning with love. Then you can emerge free to love and learn how to route and navigate on stormy seas.
Hmm.
Stormy seas are an occupational hazard of living.
Hmm.
It's just
Yes.
that's to love and to be a lover. That's what those 5 secrets will serve you well. That's the secret.
Yeah, and I think, the big word here is awareness. We're not taught to be aware. We're conditioned to obey, to follow the dictation of somebody else, society, culture, this, that, etc. And
Exactly.
we're not taught to be aware or in tuned with oneself.
Exactly.
So if we've got to live up to that expectation. What do you mean you're
Exactly.
not happy? So and so is happy doing it. Why aren't you happy doing
But
it?
I'm not so and so. I'm
Exactly.
me.
Exactly. Because individualism of who we are as a person, as an essence, is not something that we are brought up to believe in. We're brought up from the moment we go to school or church or part of the community is obey, listen, stay in your corner, do what I tell you to do, don't speak until I tell you to. All of those things that restrict it. And I think what we do is we kill the spirit of the child. We kill the expression and the beautiful creativity of the child, the wonderment of the child. And this child is wandering around and is lost. And so therefore, what does it does? It looks for love to validate its
In all the wrong places.
all the wrong places, all the wrong places. And why can't you love me? Because they felt that there was a sense of abandonment of who they were, why they were being conditioned to be what everybody else expected them to be. So what we're doing is actually we're mourning the child that was left behind and felt in that abandonment a lack of love and appreciation for who they were because they were made to conform.
And it's so sad. And when you were saying that, I sort of felt a sadness for the child. You know what I mean? It's really painful when you think of that poor little baby. But now that little child has a new parent, you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to step up to the plate and be a
Yes.
parent and not allow that punitive parent in your head to
Mm.
take over. Because what we tend to do is that we all have the vulnerable child there, but we have that punitive parent who's saying, and everyone has it. So you have to battle. It's not about anybody else. You have to do battle with that punitive parent in your own head and have a loving, caring parent say, I'll take care of this. No.
I live with a woman who's about to be 90, and she's extraordinary. She had a twin sister who died when she was 6, and then she had 4 years of polio.
Oh,
Her fiance was killed 4 days before the wedding, yet it has an exuberance for life. But her mother's voice is always there.
in her head.
And her mother's voice was always, you can't do that. You'll make a fool of yourself. Who do you think you are? You're too tiny. This, that, etc. And that voice is still there. And I battle every day to
And,
say
and the
your voice.
issue, but the important issue with what you said is what happens with many people, maybe even most people till they learn differently, is that cruel or punitive parent who's shaming the child
Mhm.
continues to do it. And we sit by, maybe get angry at the parent and so on, but we let it happen. So now in 2023, my inner critical parent may start picking on my child. I
Mhm.
have an obligation to say to that critical parent, I'll take care of this. And to this child, you're a good kid. It's fine. You made a mistake. We all make mistakes. How can I help you?
Exactly.
You can reparent yourself. You can go home again. You can go
Mhm.
to your childhood again, but you need to do it. Even if it's something at birth, some abandonment, you can just connect with that baby and welcome that baby into the
Mhm.
world and nurture that baby and take, even that birth baby was neglected, take care of that baby and protect him or her and not let you, it's an opportunity to really bring that child through that life, grow up that little child and heal and parent forever. And so somebody does something and you'll protect them. You'll say, no, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Ways that didn't happen in the past. Or if a parent goes to hurt a child, no, I won't let you do that. That's
Yeah.
not acceptable.
The other thing is no shame, no blame.
No
And
shame, no blame.
when you look at your own parents, they are the victims of what the culture that they were brought up in. So,
Exactly.
we
And the
hope that
family dynamics
the
in there.
family dynamics, and my mother once said to me, I bring my children up the way I wanted to be brought up.
Yeah, but
All
that
right.
doesn't work either.
Right. Well, no,
That
because
doesn't
I'm
work
I'm
either.
navigating blind out there, and I've actually just written my memoir, and in it is like, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes with my children because my own insecurity, my own vulnerability came through, and I wasn't there for them at the time they needed me because of that.
But you need to know something. If you were a perfect parent, your children would not be able to cope with reality.
True. Very,
Because the
very true.
world is a very imperfect place, whether it's friends, teachers, employees, partners. If you were perfect and they only had this wonderful, look at all they wouldn't have learned to do. It's like working out. You have to do
Yes.
this.
Yeah, get those
It's
muscles
just that
going.
you don't want to
Yeah.
be overwhelmed, so the child is just overwhelmed. But a little bit of not being such a perfect parent is a good thing. They learn how to deal with less than perfection. So if my
I,
parents are in a bad mood, not available, well, I can learn how to entertain myself or find a friend. So if my partner's not available, I'm
mhm.
go absolutely wild about it. So they're in a mood. Like one day was really cute. I remember I was going for my doctorate. That was very stressful. And I was at the end of the table, and my friend was helping with statistics. And my husband was at the other end. He was eating a sandwich that he had made. And he was chewing and the lettuce made noise. The poor man. So I said, "You're making so much noise." He
Mhm.
looked at me. He took his sandwich and he went in the other room. And the friend who was helping me said, "You must have a good relationship." He knew I was nuts.
Yeah.
And he gave me space to be nuts. It had nothing to do with him.
No,
So he went in the other
everything
room.
was amplified for you, right?
Exactly. That's exactly. But
I
he
think
just
I
didn't
think
get caught up in it.
the common thing is, I made mistakes with my children because I was going through a lot with my family. I was in discovery of myself, etc., or with my ex. But it's also, I think, fundamentally love. Is love at the center of everything, right?
Exactly.
And love should never have conditions on it. You love because you love, not I brought you into the world and I can take you out, as one of my friends used to say to her kids.
What did she say to her
She used
kid?
to say, I brought you into the world and I can take you out.
That's really scary.
I know. She could be very
That's really
intimidating.
like when you said that, I went like
I know.
this. I can't imagine a little child hearing that. Oh, that poor
Exactly.
child.
And
It's
she
heartbreaking.
if her kids were being bullied at school, she would go and approach the bullier and be quite intense. So yes, yeah, there's
Well, you
a,
know what that was? That was not a parent. That was
uh
an angry child inside her responding.
yes,
That was not an adult. That was an angry child who was responding to the past.
hmm
She was not in the present.
no, definitely not. And
It's
again,
scary.
that comes into the blame of the transference. It's everybody else's fault. I mean, we've got so much narcissism out there today. And, narcissists are people where it's everybody else's fault and never their own because they do not know how to look at themselves as flawed because they think that that is something wrong, that they can't take any accountability for any choices they make. It's everybody else that's doing it to them. But I think it's that neglected and abandoned child, but also a child that's never been taught to share, to care, or have compassion.
Exactly. There are two, when you said that, I thought of two parenting styles that lead to that kind of narcissism. One, you're neglected.
Yes.
That's one. And the other one is that you were so overprotected and over that you never had a chance to develop. And you just expect that this is everybody there for me, give me what I want, I can say
Uh-huh.
and do, and it's all wonderful. When no matter what I do, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, that's not reality either. So those are both parent, what I mean, issues,
Mm.
one extreme and the other extreme, and much is in the middle.
Yes, exactly. I think, we're very prone as human beings for the extreme. We're extreme in ourselves. We're extreme in our relationships. Well, if you loved me, you wouldn't do that. Or if you love me, you would do this. And it's like the other person is kind of confused at this new command or that I've got to prove my love. And it's that again is our own insecurity inside of us,
Exactly.
begging to be loved. And we're looking for love in all the wrong places. We're looking for other people to validate us. Right? Nobody else can give you value other than the value you give yourself. The only
Exactly.
person that needs to give you permission or validate you is yourself. And then
Exactly.
other people will treat you accordingly. And if they don't, you close the door on them.
Bingo. That's why I wrote the book, because I think that our culture does not teach us how to love, it's
Mm,
all very romantic and glorified. And if the problem is never that you're changing or they need, the problem is always it's the wrong person. With the right
mm.
person, you'll be all set. I'm fine. No,
No.
we both have to. You get involved with the person. You have to grow. They have to grow. So you have
Yeah.
to. They have to grow. I don't like the way you are, and I liked you the other way. I thought the contract was you were going to be sweet and lovely, and now you're
Yeah.
going back to work, and you know what I
Mm.
mean. or I thought the contract was you'd always be there for me, and now you're preoccupied with work. So
Children.
or children,
Yes, that can
or
be a big
children.
damage to
That's
a
a big
family.
one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. You now it's all about the children. I mean, that's a typical scenario.
You don't
The
love me anymore. It's all about the kids.
Yes. And if you talk about it, it's a good thing. But in
Yeah.
many relationships, they don't talk about it. They have the child, she's the child, he feels hurt. No, I'm back home with my mother who ignored me and played with all the other kids. So I'm going to go find somebody else out there, or I'm going to drink, or I'm going to,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? I'm going
Yeah.
to just involve with work. I'm going to just give up hoping that it's going to happen. But
Yes.
rather, what you need to do is to stay present and say, no, I feel neglected, or I feel sad, or I miss you, or
Mm.
going on? Where were we? What happened to that? Just tell the truth. Well, when you do that, I get a pain in my stomach. Just share your own truth. Don't blame them. Don't say it's your fault. You made me feel it. Nobody makes you feel anyway.
Right.
They do something that triggers something you do, but you feel it. They don't make you feel it.
And be open and honest. Look, I'm sorry, what you just did triggered this past memory. That's not on
Exactly.
you, but you're just going to
Exactly.
have to understand at the present
Exactly.
moment, I have been triggered. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm back in my house as a kid with my brother picking on me, or I'm
Mm.
here with my mother neglecting me, or I'm here with my father doing that. It's absolutely, it's just spend time, leave space for love,
Yeah.
operate your brains. Where am
Mm.
I? Is it a thought? Is it a feeling? Is it a sensation? Do I want to fight? What do I feel? Leave space for love, operate your brains to love, view your conditioning with this is a reaction to your
Yes.
past,
Yes.
family, and then you emerge free. So that's why people read this. It gives the secrets, and it very easily explains how you can really do that kind of thing.
Mm.
It's I could say it's not hard. Of course it's hard.
Well,
I can
what is hard is undoing
instruction.
the old programming. Is recognizing that
Exactly.
the old program is obsolete. You know,
You're absolutely
when
right.
we've got old programming on our computer, it slows everything down. And what we have to do is go in and
Absolutely.
get rid of it and
Get it
update
out.
programming. But we don't realize we're carrying this heavy programming with us until it's triggered. And when it is triggered, don't try and bury it or
Exactly.
apologize for it. Deal with it.
Exactly.
I
Leave
have,
space to feel what you're feeling, to
yes,
think what you're thinking, to sense what you're sensing. Allow space. Don't blame it on anybody. Just allow space and be curious about it and share it. That's who I am. That's what I feel with your partner. And if they react, that's their problem. They need to deal with why they had expectations about you or themselves that you've just, but that's your problem, their problem, not your problem. And they need to look at that and give
yes.
you space to be who you are, to feel what you feel, to think what you think, and to sense what you sense. Now, behaviors are different. Like if I move in towards you and hurt you, that's not okay. But it's perfectly okay for me to feel, sense, think, whatever I feel, sense, or think. And
I
it's
always
just
say, you know,
fine.
we're all going to have an emotion because those emotions are an indication of where we are at the moment. Don't
Exactly.
become emotional over the emotion
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
that's where we get stuck in an emotion and then we don't even realize what caused it. And now we're
Exactly.
in this pattern that we don't know how to get out of. And
Exactly.
then it just carries through everything else that we're doing. So, you know, the emotions are all an indication of where you're at. Be observant. What's caused that emotion?
Agree more.
Spend it and move on.
Exactly. It's kind of, again, leave space, your thoughts for the emotions, for the sensations, and give the other person space for their thoughts, their sensations, their emotions. Then use your reason to look at them and say, oh, is this what I want to do? But many people don't, as soon as they feel, they act. They
Yes.
either drink, or they run away, or they get angry,
Or they lash out. Yeah.
or they
Mm.
lash out. That's it. And so the idea is, okay, before doing that, stay in your own space and be curious about what's going on inside you. I wanted to just punch him. Okay, I'm curious. What was that about? I mean, I'm not going to punch him. I might imagine doing it, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to do it. That's perfectly fine to imagine it. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
exactly. As
But it's
long,
not
yeah,
okay to do it. It's not okay
right.
to do it.
And it's okay to say, you know what, I'm just in a space at the present moment.
Like,
Can you leave me alone? Or I need to go for a walk, and I'm not in a good space at the moment. And I don't want to say something I'm going to regret. So can you just give
exactly.
me that time out?
One of the things I always tell couples is when you start getting revved up and you
Mm,
see the vessel in your neck
mhm.
start, stop, take a break.
Yes.
Don't continue the discussion.
No,
break,
please.
leave space
Yes.
for to feel what you feel to do, and because it has nothing to do with them, and to get yourself regulated so that you can come back from this place rather than from a reactive fight, flight, freeze
Yeah.
place.
I
So
put out
it's
every week a little blurb, 3 or 4 minute blurb on an observation, and I did one a little while ago on that when is observing a couple and observing the lash out against someone and realizing it had nothing to do with that person. It was all the past pains that were being blamed on the person. And that's something we have to be extremely careful of, because we could be with the right person, but they can only take so much of
exactly,
your old garbage thrown at them before
exactly.
it becomes something that weighs them down. So taking that space, and the one thing I used to say to people all the time, and there's something I used to do with my husband, you couldn't talk to him. There was no rationale there, none
He
whatsoever.
would shut down. He would freeze.
Uh, um, he was a piranha. So he was one of these people that would follow you from room to room to room with
Oh, so
every.
he sued you.
He
That's,
pursued me
I
into a
have to
corner
say,
until you're a pulp. Yeah,
rule number one in family systems theory: never pursue a distancer. Because if you're always moving toward the person, the only way
mm,
they can go is away.
yeah,
You're moving, it's like a car. So you have to back up before they could decide whether or not what they want to move towards you. Doesn't matter whether you're pursuing them lovingly, if you're
mm,
pursuing them emotionally, if you're pursuing them sexually, if you're pursuing them intellectually. If you're always doing this, you don't give them space to decide what they want to do,
yeah,
they're always going away. So you don't work on the distancer in couples therapy. You always work on the pursuer,
right.
because the distancer is running away. So you have to give them space, leave them alone, give them space.
He didn't
Work
understand
on the
that,
pursuer,
and he
work on the
also had
pursuer,
no
and say to the
acknowledgement of it.
pursuer what was going on inside you right
Yeah,
before you said that. What was going on in you right before you did that? And then you say, okay, we'll go inside. Let's check. See, well, I felt tension in my stomach. Okay, so what was that? And describe the tension. Well, it was hot, and it was unpleasant and gooey. And I say, did you ever feel that way before? And they say, well, yeah, when I was a little kid and my father
mm,
started yelling at me, I felt the same way. Well, then it has nothing to do with your partner. So let's go.
yeah,
And so if you were there with that little kid, what would you do? I tell my father never to do that. And I pull him away.
exactly.
I'd take the little kid and we'd go out and go for a walk.
Right. What happens when you have somebody, though, that has no memory of what they do? Complete denialist. Like the
Wow.
next day, he would see
Really?
me completely, absolutely drained, and this is what
Okay.
brought on my
So
illness.
this is
And he would absolutely, he could even be videoed what he's doing and still deny it.
okay. So what you're really saying is that person was in denial and shut down. I mean, some people do that will do alcohol or drugs to keep that going. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But that kind of thing is, you if they're in complete denial and they're not taking any drug or alcohol, then they're frozen. They must
Mm.
have a lot he must have had a lot of trauma from his past, from
Yeah.
his own past, a lot of trauma that you have nothing to do with. And when it's that bad, you need to say, time out. There's things going on here that's we can't settle.
Yeah.
They
He never heard time out, unfortunately.
Yeah, but you really, because that's, if somebody is in constant denial, that you can't, it's like someone's frozen.
Yeah.
They have to
Unfortunately,
be
there's
brought
nothing.
out.
I mean, what I would manage to do is later I could write to him and I would say to him, please read and digest before you respond. Right,
Okay,
because I
that
find
works.
that if you even write it out the anger and then reread it, do I really want to say this? Where is this really coming from? And then rewrite. And I think it's just that pause and that contemplation before
Leave space.
reverberation,
Leave space for
it's the
love.
space. It's the space.
Operate. Oh, something just happened and I lost you.
Right. I'm here.
Oh, but I lost you. I don't know what to do. Oh,
Um, Sorry, folks, we had just a momentary internet glitch, which is also kind of a testimony to life where glitches happen. And, one of the things I realized, with my ex is that when you're dealing with somebody that is in denial and that never take any ownership or responsibility for their own pain, they can only inflict. There is absolutely nothing you can do. You're not empowered to do anything. You can't even address the wounded child within them because, no, that's not me. That's not me, because they're in denial. And so it's the hardest thing to help somebody in denial. And we cannot be helped until we say, I am asking for help.
Yes. And when they're in denial, you need to say, this is not a good space for us to be in.
Right.
I'm going to protect you and take you away. Just as like if you were a child and your father was abusive or your mother was abusive, and then they said, I didn't do anything, you did it. That child was at sea, lost.
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
protect that child and say what he did was wrong, and I'm
Yeah.
going to protect you. We're getting out of here. Because
Right.
you're a child, nobody took you away. I'm not saying you, I don't not know your
Yeah.
life.
No.
I'm just saying
No, it was
in
actually my children that took me away. They came and said, all right, time for a divorce.
bingo, bingo. So there you go.
Yeah, it
There you
was
go.
the children.
There you
Uh,
go.
and
So
and it
they're
took
healthy
23
adults.
years later. We walked our daughter down the aisle. We see each other at various kind of celebratory events, and he was at my son's birthday, and he actually apologized 23 years later. He said, "I never
Oh,
should have married you. I'm
wonderful.
not the marrying type. I know I hurt you." And I
Yeah,
said, "Yes, the scars will always be there. That
right,
but both of us have to look for the ways to heal
right.
and move on, which I have done. But
But
it's
there was a wounded part of you that
mhm.
found him. There was a familiarity. He
I
was
was my
familiar.
mother, and I married my
Bingo. I
father."
knew there was somebody. I knew there was somebody.
Oh, yes.
I knew there
Repeat
was somebody
patterns,
back
because
there.
this is when you hear people, they came from abusive an upbringing as an abused child, and they go and abuse their own children, and nobody ever understands that. But you've got to understand it's the familiar. It's the only pattern they
They're
know.
programmed. It's how they're
They're
programmed.
programmed. They don't even
Programmed.
realize they're on a program. Do you think they want to hurt their own child because they know the pain? It's just something they don't know how to stop and reprogram because they haven't registered that it's a program that needs to
And
be
and
deleted.
and when you're attracted to a person, you know, your parents may be abusive, but they may be nice sometimes.
Exactly.
So when you
Exactly.
meet a partner and you feel the nice, but you
Mm.
also on some level feel the familiarity of the not so nice, you
Hmm.
tend to get them. We all do it. It's just an positive. And so that gives you marriage is the greatest opportunity to grow and develop. That gives you an opportunity with a less threatening person to work through and heal your inner child or your inner adolescent and to learn how to establish boundaries and to protect her and say, no one does that to me.
And the whole point is in a relationship. I have a gorgeous picture which I post out, and it's man and woman. So each individual person in their own strength, they come together and they merge as one face. That doesn't mean they're giving up their identity. It just
Bingo,
means I am me, you are you, but together we are we.
bingo. Murray Bowen always talked about what we need to do is to differentiate ourselves from the family system, not cut off from the family
Right.
system. Different. How am I like them? And how am I different? How
Hmm.
am I like my part? And you fuse with your partner. Oh, we're going to live happily ever after. We both love each other. We're perfect. Yeah, sure. And then the truth is, this is how we're alike, but then we're different. And can
Mm.
we give one another space to be connected, but also be separate and different? And
Right.
be curious rather than judgmental, trying to fit them into the mold that you were
Right.
programmed to receive. If you could be just curious, now I wonder why he or she did that. But if they invade your boundaries, you say you move away. You don't participate. Don't
And it's
participate.
and it's okay if this person has interest and you don't have interest in it. That's their space to
Bingo,
go and do what they
bingo,
want to do. Come back and tell me all about it.
bingo.
Right? Why
I
is
mean,
it that
wouldn't
we
it be?
think that because we're in a marriage, we've got to do everything the same?
It would be well. That's unhealthy. That's
Very.
fusion. That's fusion. We do everything the same as fusion, and some partners want that because they feel good, but it's suffocating. It's the kiss of death. Like
Yes.
I'm like you. I'm different. I'm like today. I'm like this. Tomorrow I'm like that. I'm growing, and you're growing. If just being curious about a partner and just interested, they have to change. If they're always the same, it's like, oh, there she is, oh, there he is, and he is just.
Boring.
And it may be that you only see the part
Yeah.
of that's a certain way, and you don't look at the other parts. You discount it. You say, oh, that's what they are. Oh, that's what they are. Oh, that's what he is. That's what she is. And so leave space, operate your brains, the thoughts, separate thoughts, feelings, sensations, and view your conditioning. How is this what happened with my mother and father? Am I reacting to the present or am I reacting
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
yesterday or 10 years ago or 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And that's what needs to happen. It's sort of very basic. If you have those basic principles, you can learn how to love and to be a lover. But you have to love yourself first with all your flaws.
All
With
the flaws, yeah. And the thing is, it's got to understand it's a journey of self-discovery. This is called self-discovery wisdom, and it's to discover the wisdom that
Exactly.
comes through us, that we gain through life experience. But I also think there's a
Exactly.
huge thing that's missing within ourselves, and most certainly in a relationship, is that sense of exploration and wonderment.
Yeah.
Right? When you get
And
to
that's sad. I
complacency,
mean,
oh,
think about that. It's so sad that that's killed off. Look at a baby. They're looking at their
mm,
hands and they're
hmm
looking at a leaf and they're just so fascinated. And we just
yeah,
miss so but to be curious about yourself and about
yes,
the person. Now I wonder why she did that. I wonder why he did it. Now why did I respond that way? What was that all? Just be curious. Be curious rather than judgmental.
exactly.
Always establish your boundaries. I'm different from you, and you can't evade my boundaries. That's just a basic assumption. But aside from that, you really need to be curious about the other person, curious about yourself.
Exactly. Please be
Know what
willing
you
to
will.
grow.
You
Who
know, and
wants to be the same old person? You want to
I
grow
get,
in life,
and
you know?
it's delusion because
Yeah.
if physics tells us that change is the one constant, uh,
And we're not willing to
I stay the
change.
way I am. How can you stay the way you are? We can make believe. And in order to maintain everything the way it was, we'll have to take drugs or alcohol to deaden everything so we can always be the same the way we're supposed to be. But it's a delusion. It's not real.
Well, look at what's happening in society around the world right now. What are the wars about? What is this conflict about? What is this, banning of books and, killing of
Yeah,
this and demanding of that? It is all the insecurity of somebody who doesn't want change because they fear the
bingo.
change. And they fear the change because they're not willing to do the work inside to nurture that
Exactly.
child, to not be afraid of the change. They feel they'll lose themselves in the change. Well, you've already lost yourself because you weren't willing to
You
change.
don't even have a self. You just have this creation.
Hmm.
It's not grounded in your
Yeah.
body or reality. It's something you've created like a painting or something.
Hmm.
And everybody
Yes.
else has to agree that's who you are. That's what, yeah, sure. I mean, but it's not reality. It's
All right.
kind of
An
some
illusion.
like an
Yes.
illusion or a delusion that we have together.
Yes. So those are two words that I put together
A
all the
joint
time.
delusion.
The
Right.
delusionment of the illusionment.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
And
we've
no
got to
matter
understand if we're feeling angst about something, yes, we can stand up against things that are not right when we see, things being inflicted on people that are abusive, that take away someone's voice, that takes away someone's liberty. Yes, we should stand up together against that, most certainly. But we could get rid of a great deal of conflict in our lives if we were willing to talk with each other, not be scared of differences, instead of embrace them, try the different spices of cultures of life and integrate them into ourselves. Are we going to like everything? No. Does that mean you have to hate it?
right,
No. If your spouse or your boyfriend or your lover or whatever, your friend says something to you that you don't like, do you stop liking them as a whole? No,
right.
you just don't like that particular aspect of them. Then either don't engage with them on that thing or have a talk about it. I don't agree with you on this aspect. Let us keep that to one side and let's concentrate where we do get on.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think it's so important. That's why my book, I really meant, I wanted people to know it's not complex. It's complex, but it's simple on the other hand. If you just take those, leave space.
Mhm.
Thoughts, separate your thoughts from your emotions, from your sensations. They're separate, just space. And this is my thought, this is my feeling, and this is what I sense in my body. Okay, space. Give the other person room. This is his thought, her feeling, or her emotion, and her sensation. Okay, now we have this large with his thoughts, his emotions, your emotions, his is, well, that's kind of interesting, but be curious. Listen, oh, okay. I don't know what's going on inside you. I may think I do, but I don't unless you tell me. And you don't know what's going on inside me. You may think you do based on past history, but you really don't. And just share your differences. It sort
Uh,
of makes it fun and interesting.
share that, make space to inquire,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Don't assume. I like the, Don Ru's four agreements. Speak your word with integrity, right? Don't take things personally because what's been imposed on you is their issue, not yours. Uh,
Exactly.
and don't assume. Ask.
Exactly.
Assumption is so deadly, right?
Exactly.
Ask and do your best based on what you feel in your unconscious is your best, not
Exactly.
measured by somebody else. But we're so
Exactly.
quick to judge. We're so quick to condemn. We're so quick to dismiss because we will not ask.
because we think that we have the answer and it should be this way, because maybe we were conditioned or we reacted our conditioning to say this is right and this is wrong. Well, it may be right except for, violating boundaries and that kind of thing. It may be right for you and wrong for him, or right for, but is there an absolute about what's right and wrong? No, you can't invade other people's space or their
Yeah.
boundaries. I mean, different values, different people. That's what makes the world an interesting place, different cultures. So there's no right way. This is how you're supposed to do it. We need to be curious about their thinking. How did they come to that conclusion? And you're thinking, well, I reacted to my family, or I'm just like them. Well, where are you in all that?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so important for you to say, well, how do I agree with my parents? How do I disagree with my parents? How am I like them? How am I different? And anytime you get triggered by another person's behavior, that's because it triggers something in you that you have
Yeah.
trouble looking at. Does that make sense? In other words,
Well, yeah, I've got a sister that she's older than me, and she has no understanding what I do.
yeah.
I'm a goody two shoes, whatever. She even called me a do-gooder communist. Which I know. I
What?
know. It's just like,
I
you
don't
know,
mean to laugh, but it isn't.
I know. It is laughable. And it's just like there was one she listened to a 2-minute thing of me. Oh, I think I get what you do, but she's just no comprehension of it whatsoever. And it's so far out of her realm. So what we agree on,
She's really ignorant about the emotional part of life.
totally, she is into politics and she
Yeah.
could tell you everything politically that's going on in the world. She watches every news,
Reason.
reads every newspaper, and in the true color, she's a solid gold. And I say to her, don't talk to me about politics. I won't talk to you about my shows, and we'll find the common denominator and we'll stay in that field. If we
I
stay in that field, we can get on fine.
yeah.
Once we step outside of that, then not. Now, my brother is a professional author, and he taught writing at school at the master's level, etc. But
Wonderful.
I've interviewed him many a time, and he knows my style. All right. And many a time I've
Gives
interviewed him
you
on the books.
space. He gives you space to be who you are. Your
Exactly. But
sister does not give you space to be who you are.
right, exactly. And interestingly enough, both him and my son-in-law, who's the engineer, have been editing my book. And they're two people that kind of think from a different thing. I've written it very, very differently to when my brother writes books, right?
Yeah.
Because I said it's my voice.
You're a
It's got
different
to be my
person. You're a
voice, right?
different person. It'd be boring if you had the same book.
Exactly. But the interesting thing is, two people that are very kind of rational in their logics and the way they look at things, and yet I'm not seeing them. They're being logical in the way they've approached the book, which
Yeah.
obviously they're learning something about me, which maybe they never knew. But it's also the critique is not criticism that is coming back. It's logical with what they're saying. And in fact, my son-in-law designed the book cover.
How
And
lovely.
it's just like, and it surprised me because he is the anxiety one. He's the one that has to check and validate and verify everything. And
Yeah.
yet this is, what he's done. And it's his own creative space, which I know is there, that has come out and seen things from a different thing. Because sometimes I could give it to somebody to read that is like me, but would they be able to see it as objectively as somebody that is completely different to me in their way of thinking? Right? And sometimes you need that objectiveness to look at something. It is not criticism. It is a critique of how to present it better or clarify,
Well,
right? And if we could get out of the woundedness, and you're
exactly.
criticizing me. Yeah.
If I'm looking at it this way and they're looking at it this way, and
Yeah.
someone else, we
Yeah.
get a bigger view. It's
Yes, exactly. We get
wonderful.
all
It's
those
kind of one
perspectives.
person talks about psychology, another
Yeah.
one talks about sociology, another one talks about biology, another one talks about something else. It expands your perception. It's not just that you expand. That's what life is all about.
I'm a true colors coach, the 4 key personalities, Myers and Briggs, the 4 key.
Yes,
And
I know it well. I know it well.
when I discovered that, it was hallelujah.
Yeah, I
I
know it
finally
well.
know exactly what color I am and the reason why my family can't see me. Because they were all
Ex-
gold greens, and I am this screaming blue with your kind of orange and green, and gold is in the next building,
Yeah.
which I had to learn to bring my gold in doing this over the last 11 years. But
Wouldn't it be a boring garden if all the flowers were the same all over the
again,
world? And what
humanoids,
makes beauty and interest is
yes,
difference, and difference
the
helps
spice
me
of life.
grow, helps
Yeah,
me grow. If everybody's the
yeah,
same, It's like I don't get triggered, I get stimulated, I don't get curious. So, oh yeah, yeah. You want a difference. Interesting. Alert, curious.
Yes. Yes, I'm one of these person. I've made many, many mistakes in my life. I mean, most of it is in trusting people. I'm a person, I'm a seer. I see the possibilities. I see it in the person. I see it in what they're doing. And I have put my money, time, and effort behind certain people. Nothing wrong with the product or the person, but certainly wrong with the arena that we
Exactly.
presented it in. And so I ended up bankrupt, but I still stand behind what I did
But
because the
what
gut
you
told me right.
and you learned something very important from it.
Very much so.
You
Yes,
something very
exactly. It's
important.
actually what led to me doing this. So,
That's what I'm saying. You learned
yes,
something
yes.
learned, oh, and you're sharing this with the world. So it's
Mm.
transforming the world through what you learned through your pain.
I think failure is when you give up and give in.
Uh-huh.
And I think life lessons is just learning to get back up over and over again.
It's boring to always be right.
But everybody's looking for security, aren't we? We all like to feel secure. We want to be financially secure, love secure, this secure, and we can strive to get a basis of security. But COVID
Exactly.
just showed us that, security can be taken from you at any time. And that really, quite honestly, the security in yourself with
Thing,
who you are, why you are, what you represent, what gets you up every day is the
thing.
biggest security that you have.
And your own body and what's
Yeah.
going in your body. That's who I am. My heart is beating. My neck is a little stiff. My
Mhm.
arms are relaxed. That's me. That's who I am. That's
Yeah.
what, and that's him. And that's
Yes.
her. And we're
Yes.
different. We're like different flowers. I'm open to change. I'm curious to know who you are. And me, but we're always evolving. Nobody's ever there because there is no there. If the one
No.
constant
No,
change,
there's
how could
the
there
same
be a
with,
there? How could there be a there?
right? We have perfect moments, but that doesn't mean that perfection is meant to carry on. It's what the exuberance of life is. Ah, it's perfect. It's
And
a
it's
perfect
coming.
moment, but you can't sustain it, and it wouldn't be so perfect if it was there all the time.
But you said something that was so important. It's really how I do a lot of trauma work. And with trauma, you have to, before you go to the trauma, you have to get money in the bank. So because trauma, your body feels unsafe.
Hmm.
And so what you have to do is to say or do something to help them to feel safety in their own body.
Yes.
Because you can't begin to you have to go back and feel safe. And so it may be by getting them out of the past and future into the present by saying,
Hmm.
like, let you scan the room, let your eyes rest on something, take a breath, and they kind of get into their own skin. Or, a fun experience. Tell me about your dog. What do
Mm.
you, and you can just see they start to feel safe. Or tell me about your child, or, your garden, whatever it is. And they just, oh, and then you feel energy going into their body and they begin to feel safety. Only when you can feel safety are you in a position to deal with the trauma. To keep talking about trauma is very destructive. You have to
Very.
trauma a
Has
tiny,
no reasoning.
a little bit of feeling good, a little bit of trauma,
Yeah.
a little more feeling good, a little more trauma, even more feeling good, then a little more trauma. But you don't ever want the trauma to be more than the feeling good
No, no. But
because
I've
you
also think, trust the feeling. And I'm a person very much that I have to feel my thoughts to trust my thoughts.
exactly.
If you're just thinking all the time, it's all that outside data and programming that's going in there. And you can spin your wheel on that all the time. But when you
You have
come from your soul, your heart, and your spirit, your gut,
that.
And
That's
it's
what the
like,
whole book is about. Leave
right,
space. Leave
yes,
space for your thoughts.
yes,
Operate brains, leave space for your thoughts, leave space for your feelings and emotions, and leave space for your sensations. Don't judge them. Just allow them to be and be
yes,
curious and
yes.
leave space for the same in the other person.
I
That's how
know
you
that
love.
if,
Leave space, operate those brains. You
yes,
how you respond and he responds is because of your conditioning. It's nothing else.
right, exactly.
That's how you become love and be a lover.
Right. And you know when something feels wrong. It's almost a hand putting against your gut. No, no. I don't need to know why I can't do it. I just know that's not for me. And then other times you can feel, I have no idea if I could do this or not, but unless I try, I won't know. You know when you're tuned with yourself, whether to or not to, because you're
Right.
coming from the inside out and it's not governed
Exactly.
by the expectation of somebody else. A prime example of this is my son skipped school one day to go swing on a hook 20 feet above a ravine.
Sounds
And then,
exciting.
uh-huh. And as he put his foot on that, they just said, I just don't think I should do this. And somebody said, well, my girlfriend can. And the 14-year-old's ego got in the way. All right. So he did it and he fell and went head over bum into the ravine with his legs snapped in half and behind him. Now he knew his gut said no. I said, what was the biggest lesson you learned out of that? Listen to the gut. Doesn't matter what the outside is saying to you. The gut says no, don't do it. It's your biggest compass, your biggest guidance system.
I couldn't agree. That's what I'm saying. Leave space for love.
Yeah.
Operate your brains, the thoughts, the emotions, the sensations towards love, then view your conditioning towards love. Then you can begin to emerge free to love. Love.
Right.
2 by 2 on the arc, 5 secrets of a great relationship. And that's it. It sounds more complex than it is, but if you have these 5 strategies,
Systems, yeah.
about it. What you read, don't leave space. Okay, I'm not going to react. Okay. Well, what am I thinking? I'm thinking that he's this or that. And what are you feeling? I'm feeling I want to run away, or I'm feeling scared, or I feel
Argumentative.
yes. So just be curious about yourself. Leave space, but don't behave. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Don't
Act
react.
Just give space to think about it, to emote
Feel
about
about it.
it, just sense it.
Yeah.
But don't make behaviors until you leave space to think through where you're going, what you wanted to do, and what will be the impact. It's get in touch with yourself, leave space. And before you make any plan to move, make sure you think through what might happen from your thoughts, your emotions, your sensations, and your behaviors.
Today
I'll take a break. More
yeah,
space.
exactly. Today, when we look at couples, it's not always necessary man, woman. It could be woman, woman, man, man,
Woman, man, man.
binary, or it
But
could
the
even be,
dynamics are the exact
yeah, it
same.
doesn't matter. It could be
That's why
between
in the
mother
book
and
I talk
child or
about that.
friends. It's
In the book, I
relationships.
talk about in the book, it can be partner, any
Yeah.
relationship, same dynamics, any relationship, exact same. I agree with you. I
Yeah,
agree.
but I know the thing is, again, is that to each their own, because everybody knows what they need and what they don't need when they truly tune in. But the whole thing, I think, is that if everybody come from a space of love of who they are, why they are, what they're here for, what they stand for, what they're contributing, and the love of getting up every day and being a part of life, that love is your engine. That
Yeah.
is what makes everything drive forward. And when you come from a place of love, even when you face the adversity, even when you face the old memories coming up, or you're facing somebody who's got that coming up, even if you can't say or touch at the time, you can blanket them with some love, vibrational
You know
love.
what? Sometimes that's very, very hard for people.
Mm-hmm.
You've grown up in an environment that's very critical, full fronting. You didn't experience love, and you don't feel love towards yourself. There's like shame about who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
you can still blame yourself. So to come to the place where you just described is very evolved.
Yeah. It
I don't,
takes time and it takes work.
but it's very evolved, and people need to know it takes time, and you have to begin to love, your unfinished self, because before you can begin to love anyone or anything. So just be kind, be the good parent you didn't have, and evict that punitive parent inside. Evict them.
Yes.
They're not paying rent anymore. So
Right.
evict them.
But
And
also change the verbiage and what it meant. It's like, because I was a sickly child and spent a
right,
lot of time in bed, didn't finish school. I wasn't academic at all. My
right.
spelling, grammar, and all of that out the window. It was always like, well, just hope she makes a good marriage. She'll never amount to anything. So there was low expectation on me. And for a while, I kind of felt, well, nobody expects anything from me. But on the other side of me, there was a drive. I talked myself into jobs that I had no right to talk myself into.
How
I,
wonderful.
I
But
had
that part of
no
you is really
experience to
fun.
do it.
I would be really curious about that part of you, because that's a really creative, interesting, forward thinking. How old do you think that part of you is?
That's very old soul
Yeah,
with a
yeah,
young spirit. And
yeah.
and that's what I call my separation. I was two distinct people. I was my spiritual self.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the human self. And the human was filled with inadequacy, just conflict and everything else. And the spirit self, and I call it my knowingness. When I'm in my knowingness, I am completely in flow. When I have to go into just the human self, I become doubtful, right?
Yeah, but it's really beautiful for you to know for the rest of your life, no matter how bad things come, that's your home to go to, that
Yes,
part of you.
yes,
It's always there to protect you, to be with you.
yeah,
That's beautiful. That's always a safe place, no matter what's going on in the world, how people are treated.
exactly.
You always know that that's there. And sometimes people don't have that. And it takes a
I had
lot of
to
time
work.
to
I had
develop
to
that.
work to get there. I did because the human, but my spirit side of me has always been trying to drive me. It's what I came here to do, right? Initially, all those many lifetimes ago, it was always been my safety, my wisdom, my trust. But there was this other side of me of the kind of almost sense. This is one thing I realized when I read my book back, a sense of abandonment or a sense of loneliness. And that's, left in a room on your own while you're sick with white walls around you. I had to go somewhere else. So I went off dimensional
I'm
traveling,
sick. So
right?
what's wrong with, I'm sick, so there must be something wrong with me.
But also the one thing I turned with the low expectation. Oh,
Yeah.
look at this
I can't
as
do much.
no,
I'm sick.
no, no, no. I turned it around.
Okay.
Nobody expects anything from me. So anything I do or
It's
achieve
a
is a
big deal.
surprise. And I realized that people who had high expectations on them, the anxiety and the
How
stress to meet up to that
interesting.
expectation was more
Oh, how,
detrimental.
oh, that's really interesting. So low expectations. So it was easier for you to say, hey, that was great. Hey, that
Yeah,
was great. Whereas with them, you didn't get 100. This is terrible. Whereas with
exactly.
you did the test. How wonderful. That's very true. There's pros and cons to
Yes.
every situation, every family, everything. There's no perfect way.
But why don't
There's,
we look at the pro? There's always, and it's the same with light and darkness. People give darkness this bad rap. Now,
exactly.
I had 8 years, excuse me, my lungs are being a bit itchy today. I had 8 years in the darkness, kind of out of my spirit, going through the worst years of my marriage.
Dark night of the soul.
Mm. And but
As
there
if
was the light was there, and eventually I came out. When I came out, it was blinding, and I felt the shadows were chasing me. And then I'm at the space now. I can go into any darkness, for I am the light.
oh,
And
how
I like the darkness. It's my peace, and I can be whatever glow of light I want to be there.
it's beautiful. That's beautiful.
But you have to work on it. Really,
That's
you have
what
to be
you
willing
did.
to take the
That
journey.
it's the secret of you have to go into the darkness to find the light and to lead with the light.
Yes. And the thing is, most of the time we're in our own way.
Mhm.
And I've been doing this 11 years, 10 years with my own network. And the discovery I've made over myself through the years, for interviewing people like yourself, the listen, the learn, and apply is my motto. And I applied it on myself. And the discovery I've made over myself, I am now the person I always was meant to be, that I denied myself to be because of the expectations over me.
Right, right. So it's really interesting. Like you're saying it was in some ways safer for you to explore and to do than somebody else who you
Nobody had any
expected,
expectations of
they had
me,
low
right?
expectations.
Mhm.
It's really interesting. Tom Fogarty, who was one of my mentors, he was a psychiatrist years ago. He said, with people you love, you should lower your expectations to zero.
Mhm.
With other people, you can have them up, but the closer you are to people, the more you have to lower your expectation to zero. Like with a couple, don't expect, because as soon as you expect, you're
You're
going
going to
to
be
have,
disappointed.
yes, lower your expectations to zero. And then whatever happens, you're happy. Something good is, no matter what it is. If you expect nothing and you get something, wow.
Right.
Whereas if you
Treat your
expect
lives
that,
together
you
as
got
a
enough.
blank canvas.
Yeah.
Paint together, create the picture together. And sometimes, no, I don't particularly like that image. Let's change it. And that's communication, right? That is building together and sharing each other's, vision. And that I think that's my daughter is a very strong willed person, always has been. She's a person that can see people from the inside out right from a child and hold them accountable to who they are.
Good for
Right.
her.
And so she most certainly is that person that kind of drives life, that drives what is
You were her
happening
role model. You were her role model.
in a different type of way. You're right. Because um, I'm the one that made all the decisions and did everything because he abstained. Then I got blamed for being the director or the decisions I made. So you never did win, right? But
Well,
uh,
when you don't make any decisions, you find fault with the one who does make decisions.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
Her job
And
is the judge and let them be the worker.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, one of the things I've learned in life is that my husband verbally abused me, but I gave him the boots to kick me with. I have to take onus to that. And it was only when I rose up and I would say to him, the only person interested in this argument is your mirror, not
Mhm.
me. And then it was, I've lost the control I had over you. I'm the one that gave him the control. I
Mhm.
abstained from my own life and I had to take ownership of that. And every single one of us has to take ownership and responsibility to participate in our own lives. It's not up to anyone else to fix us, validate us, or make us who we are. That is our life's journey.
And apologize to your child and say, I did the best I could. I did all that I knew. And I'm sorry I took it as long as I did. But
Mhm.
once I learned, I protected you.
Exactly. It's
And
never too late, is it? It's never too late. You know, it might be too late for that particular relationship at that time, but maybe that was just a chapter in your life and not meant to be your whole book. You have
exactly.
been gifted with a whole book of having your husband of 60 years, which is quite incredible, very unique in today's day's life, a rarity and something to look up to. How did you make it happen? Well, you've literally taken everything that you've made happen, put it in the book, put it in your teachings. But
And that's
also
what
it
I
is,
wanted so much to let people know because they don't know what to do. They only learn,
yeah,
what their parents
shouldn't do.
tell them, or they don't want to do that, do the opposite. But it's much easier than that. So
Yeah,
reading 2 by 2 in the Ark, 5 Secrets of a Great Relationship is going to give them the secrets how to do it. And so when
the
they're having,
basis.
take a
Hmm.
break and read something.
Yeah,
And then you come back. Do you know what I mean? Just
yeah,
take a break. And just when you feel, take a break because you'll be in your emotions, leave space and use your intellect to look at what's going on. And this will be kind of like your support or your therapist there
yeah,
for you to support you and listen and say, I'm here for you. I want to take care of you. And no one's going to violate my boundaries. No
right.
one
And only
emotionally.
you can decide what your boundaries are. Only
Exactly.
you, nobody else. And you
Exactly.
don't have to be aggressive about it. You just have to say,
Be clear
your
in
your
turn.
your chess persona will already
Yes,
show the boundaries. The
exactly.
tone of your voice will show the boundaries.
Exactly.
Sorry, too far.
And if they move in, they'll feel an energy that
Yeah,
says, stay away.
exactly. Yes.
It's like,
Yeah. I mean, it's like, people who've even had a bad day with the boss at home, at work, and they come home and they need to download.
yeah, they're in a
And
bad
it's
mood.
right. So you know what? Okay, just say, all right, get it off your chest and then put it away. But if we
Exactly.
say, I'm not interested, then they're like, it's going to ferment and then it turns into something against you rather than what they were carrying home.
And
Allow a person to have a vent as long as that venting is short and sweet and doesn't carry on.
exactly. When I was saying I was doing my dissertation, my thesis, I was stressed, and my poor husband is
Yeah.
chewing lettuce, and he just looked and figured, oh, she's not. He did not get into my craziness. That was my.
No,
It had nothing to do with him. He just walked away,
exactly.
which
Because
was
when you are
okay.
stressed, everything is amplified. Right.
Exactly.
And the other thing, when you're stressed or when you're depressed or when you're angry or fear or in fear, your entire body crunches down.
Exactly.
Everything. There's no chi, no energy, no oxygen, nothing running through your body. There is no solution. So this is why the simple measure of taking a breath, it corrects your spine. It has the whole body incorporated in that breath. And a few deep breaths puts you back in charge where you
Exactly.
can now see the solution.
It's interesting when you were just describing that, how you feel like this and everything.
Mm.
In some ways, you kind of have abandoned your child and yourself,
Mm.
and you need
Hmm.
to go back and say, "I see you. You're upset.
Yes.
I'll take care of you." Rather
Yeah.
than when we pull away and pull away, it may be trauma that we just freeze. That's not our fault. Trauma is not your fault. But whenever possible, to get yourself to feel safe or to feel a little bit good, to get away into a safe space. Trauma is not our fault. We just go into a freeze. We shut down.
Yeah. Exactly. Because we
People
don't want to
abuse us.
experience
People do
again.
what you do because you're frozen. So that you have to, first thing you have to feel a little bit of safety is usually get away or do something to feel safe, and then you'll go back. Because when you go into trauma, you do abandon yourself. You're frozen.
Yeah. I
So
recently
be
watched
kind and loving.
I recently watched a video between Trevor Noah, who I really have great admiration for, and Jay Shetty.
Yes.
And there was one bit in there where Trevor talks about you don't have to enjoy the experience while it's happening, but you relish the person you've become because of it. But it doesn't
Oh,
mean you
that's
enjoy
a
the experience.
beautiful expression. I love it. I love that expression. To look back and appreciate what you've been through and how you've survived it and how you've
Hmm.
coped. Say, wow, I really admire you. You did a magnificent job. It was
Exactly.
really a challenging situation, but look what you did. Like with kids, they can be so creative in trying to
Yeah.
do what they do. So,
Mhm.
so creative that you have to hug them and say, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. I know that wasn't enjoyable. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but
Yes.
look what you learned from it. Look what
It's
you who you are
so
now. Yeah.
you're stronger at the broken places.
Oh yeah. The flawsome again, the broken cup being put back together by gold, right? Or even stronger now. And that's the thing, is that there isn't anybody, absolutely no one, that doesn't go through some hard knocks in life. And you've got to understand, it's not life out there to get you. It's out there to teach you. And I've interviewed some people that had absolutely every right to hate every living person on this planet with what was done to them.
Right.
But who they've become because they were willing to go through the process, willing to recognize that it wasn't their fault, to heal their child, to heal themselves, and what they've become and what they're doing today to be there for other people. That was their journey to have. But the fact that they had so much resilience, strength, and courage to do it is exemplary.
You know, what you're doing is really beautiful. It touches my heart.
Thank you.
You're sharing with so many people and giving them, it's like you're a parent to the world. To kind of, good parents do that.
I'm
Do you know
giving
what?
them space.
You give them, leave space for love is the
Exactly.
first question.
Exactly.
Operate your brains for love. This is your thought. These are your feelings. These are your sensations. View your conditioning with them. Yeah, that was because your father did that. Did that ever happen before? When was, but that was then and this is now.
Exactly. How do we live presently? The gift of the present is in the now, right?
Right.
And
And
when
that's
we,
the future. The future is fantasy. The
well,
past
it's
and the
what
future
you
are both
seed in
fantasy.
the now is what's going to grow tomorrow. So be careful
This is,
what seeds
this
you're
is
planting.
only reality right
Yeah,
here, constantly changing. So be curious about it, about yourself and other people, rather than saying, "Oh, you're this or you're that." Don't put people in boxes. Just be more flowing. Be open, and it's
right.
it's life exciting. That's what the kids do. They look at
Yeah,
their hands all day long. They're intrigued. Well, we need to look at ourselves and other people all day long and be intrigued.
exactly. And the other thing is, there are going to be people around you that won't like who you are now because they're not there. They can't see you, right? They
And
can't
because you're not
recognize you.
responding the way you responded before, that made them feel safe
Yeah,
or whatever, but that's their problem, not
right.
yours.
And you can't drag anyone else along. Everybody's on their own journey at their own pace, their own time. You have to honor who you are and who you're going to inspire now, because inspiration begets invitation. When somebody's inspired by who you are and what you're doing now, it invites them on their
Exactly.
own journey. And that is something that I think we need to actually understand of what we are to each other. We're each other's cheerleader, we're each other's companion, we're each other's compassion, and we're there to support one another. And the more what we do that, but we've also got to understand, I do the analogy of the orchestra. Each one of us is becoming an instrument. Once we know what instrument we are, we learn how to play it. Yes, we can be soloists, but when we join that orchestra in sync with each other, in harmony with each other,
Right.
in each individual strength,
Exactly. You
we
have to work with
extend
them.
and
And
transcend. Yes,
individual interacting with the
yes,
environment,
yes,
changing and being changed. But when
exactly.
you should do this, I should do this. Well, you don't have that flow. You
No.
don't have that flow.
Life is all about flow. It's all about fluidity. It is all about that energy constantly needing to flow within us. And it's
Exactly.
always about moving forward. You know, if people in my book is, are you going to go into deep detail about this or that? No. I will refer to things that have happened to me, but I'm not going to go into deep, dark detail. I've been there, I've done that. I'm talking about how I've moved forward, how
Exactly.
I've become Sarah today from that lost child. And, looking back at my child, she was a very naive, ignorant child of the world because she was a cosmic child living the universal code. And that's why she found it hard to live in the human world. And
Yeah.
that's been my biggest battle through my entire life, living with humans that can do so much harm to each other. So much harm to each other, and trying to understand why, when if we just give our energy over here and we step
It's
into
so
that love
sweet.
of each other.
Oh, it's so sweet that you leave space for that child and for all those other people, and you support her as she knows, is curious about them, but then is in touch with how their behavior affects her, and that you're there to support her at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And you leave space for love. You operate thoughts, feelings, sensations, your brains for love, the three brains. You view your conditioning, look at how your family has impacted you, and
Mm-hmm.
you react or you do the opposite. And you're different. Differentiate from the family. They're this, I'm that. And then you emerge free to love and learn how to route and navigate stormy seas. And that's 2 by 2 on the arc, 5 secrets. Those are the five
Yeah.
secrets. Any kind of relationship. You could do the same thing with friends, with colleagues, with employers, anybody. It's
Anybody.
just, and just allow space for yourself first.
It's the relationship with yourself first.
Exactly.
Invest in that. The
Exactly.
time, the effort, the skills, the tools, anything that helps you know who you are and why you are, and love yourself, because then you are exuberant to everyone else. Now, my loving energy is not for everybody I know. They're going to receive it in the light that they need to see it in. That doesn't mean
And
they're
within
always
their
going to see
capacity,
me.
within their capacity. They
Exactly.
only be have a capacity for that much of it.
Exactly.
Somebody else might have a capacity for that much
Exactly.
of it. It's
And
not right. It's not wrong. It's just different.
I mean, that's one of the things I battled is why doesn't, as a child and growing up, why don't people see me? Because I was talking about the spirit of me.
But
And, but,
they're not
people,
here yet. They live in this world,
yes,
in
exactly.
another world, and so they have to open up to begin to see this larger
Yes.
reality. But you need the light to see that, to get out of
Right.
the darkness. You know
And
that
never, ever in the history of time have we got the time that is presented to us to be able to open up to that
exactly,
higher consciousness, to that
exactly,
loving vibration, to
exactly.
that beautiful cosmic wisdom.
Which
We
is the
have been
essence of our
invited to rise up.
reality. Which is
Yes,
the essence of our reality. But people don't
yes,
know that because they've never felt it. They've never experienced through
right.
another person. And so, but to begin to come out of the darkness of the dark night of the soul and just see with light, oh, and with
Yes,
compassion that we're all infallible. We're not fallible, we're fallible people. Change is constant. Nobody's got it. We're all working and exploring and curious. Nobody has it, even if you think they have, because there's nothing to have. It's
right.
changed next minute. It's just you have to keep your light on and see what's going on. How does that affect you? Give them space to see how it affects them. And don't try to fix them or you. Just be more, you may have to set boundaries for yourself or for them, but just to allow space, accept space between the thoughts. Don't try to reason with emotions, just like you
No.
can't with the weather. Wear a raincoat,
Yes.
galoshes.
Carry
If it's
compassion with you, always compassion. It doesn't mean you have to agree. It doesn't mean you have to condone, but you understand that hate rhetoric or that fear or that whatever's been imposed on you is coming from someone who feels shattered.
exactly. And
Shower
you
them with compassion and love that they may find their journey in to heal themselves.
and if they're judging you, they're judging themselves
Oh
even more
boy. Yeah.
sharply. They may not be in touch with it, but they're shoving, they're really judging themselves. You treat other people the way you treat yourself on a very deep level. You
Yeah.
say, this is who I am, and you kill off the part of you who's not that. That's
Mhm.
pretty cruel. Talk about abandonment. You abandon the part of you you don't like to
Yes.
be who you're supposed to be. That's the ultimate in abandonment. That one part of you is, oh, you're glorified, but the other part is abandoned.
Well, the other illusion that is that when you have stepped into the loving vibration, that it's all kumbaya and la la la. I still feel pain. I still feel anguish. I still feel depression now and again with
But
what the world
that,
is doing or even some of my own challenges that I face in my life. I've still got that human side of me that sometimes mourns or is scared about what the future is going to be. But that's then up to my loving spirit to nurture
Exactly.
and aid that side
You
of
wouldn't
me.
be alive if otherwise. You're
Ah,
here on Earth for that reason. You're here on Earth to
exactly.
evolve and to help evolve the species, and to do that and to begin to just evolve and bring light into the darkness.
This is
And
the
know,
partnership between our spirit and our human self. Right? This is the journey and the experience that we're having right now. We're a beautiful spirit having a human experience. What does the human spirit give us? It gives us emotion. It gives us touch, taste, feel, hold, build. It gives us
exactly.
something extraordinary that way we can let our spirit actually act on through the physical to
And
build.
allow space for it to be. Now, allowing space for it to be is not the same as behaviors where you act it out. It's not the same
Yes,
thing. It's
yes.
just let it be in you and see it. But that doesn't mean you have to act it out. You don't have
No,
to do, you don't have to exhibit any behaviors. You just let it be. When you let it be, that's loving. It's we need to change that. But I love you just the
yeah.
way you are. We're going to help you to change that. It's okay that you, it's not okay if you do something we don't like, but we'll work on that. But I still love you and I'm here. And how can we change it?
Exactly. I do my own show every week, and last week I did a show on grace at any size. And
Oh, I
it's
love
like,
that.
you
I
know, we
love that.
look at people and I've got friends that are older than me and they look sensational. They can put on a bikini and they look fabulous. But they were gifted with that kind of shaped body. You know, I'm more like Ursula from The Mermaid. I'm curvy. So I ain't got that body. But that doesn't mean you can't have grace. And that grace is something that even
Absolutely.
if you're wearing a sack, the grace comes from
Absolutely.
inside of you, the way
Who
you
you
carry
are.
yourself. Exactly.
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 Your presence. You're in your own body. You allow space for all of who you are, and you're present. And there you are. The other is you kind of half there. The other half is
Mm.
hidden away,
Yeah.
or you're disowned,
Yeah.
or
And if the
projected out
moment we
onto
start
other
saying, well,
people.
you know, I wish I was like them, and the moment we go down comparison, you know, then we start feeling less than. So, you know, look at them and celebrate them. God, you look
Exactly.
fantastic. Wow, wonderful. But that's not me.
Exactly.
I am in a different body, in a different essence, and I need to concentrate on what I've got, not worry
Exactly.
about what somebody else has
You're
got and be
evolving
amused with it.
you. You're
Hmm.
evolving you. You're not evolving them. They're
Yeah,
evolving.
exactly. We can celebrate them though, and that's
Exactly.
the beauty of it.
People deny who they are or
Yeah,
project who they are onto other people.
yeah.
But the idea is to own, accept, love. That doesn't mean all behavior is acceptable, but you say setting boundaries is loving. You know,
Yes, it
kid
is.
wants to run across the street in front of the cars. No, you can't do that. I'm not going to let you do that.
Right.
It would be fun and exciting. No. So it's the same thing. I know you want to do that, and we can imagine you doing that. We can really enjoy doing it, but you're not going to do it. I'm
It's the
not because
same with the essence of yourself. There are people that you can let your true abundance of your essence come out and they will feel at home with you. There are other people that it's too much for them. So you have to restrict your essence. It's not denying yourself. It's just keep the volume on a little lower level. Otherwise, you're going to fry them.
actually, it's so interesting what you said. It's really that some people can't take in the
Mm.
fullness of who you are, and that's okay.
Hmm.
Okay, so just let a little bit, but you
Yes.
can enjoy. You're perfectly fine. You're who you're supposed to be, but it's hard for them to take that in because they have a small cup
Yes,
that
exactly.
area or in other areas, and that's okay.
Yep.
It takes time for that to happen, or parts of them are still young and
Right.
healed and not nurtured or not loved, and so they disown it. And so when you come near it, they get reactive. So you have to give them space,
Yeah,
your view, and say, "This is not about you. This is their."
exactly. Exactly. And any obstacles that we get given in life, you know, it always reminds me of the Tanya Harding, why me? You know, and it's like, and you know, we all ask that question, why? Why have I given that? And I know I was given the illness that I have partly because of the mental abuse. It broke my body down, but also partly to dampen my energy because my energy, when I'm in that space, can be too much, and the world isn't quite ready for it yet.
And
But
the environment you were in, we're not ready for it. So you
right,
came, big soul came into this family. All the theaters like, oh, I'll help them, but
yeah.
you were out of your league.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
was
so
in the
it was
wrong
like,
arena.
And
Yeah.
then you came back and came to love you and
Yeah.
to say, it's okay. And I'm here for you and I won't abandon you. And
And it's never too late, and we're never too old. It doesn't matter. We can do this work at any time in our life. Of course, the earlier you do
left
it in
breath.
life, the better it's going to be. But, I'm 68. I started this work some years ago. I would say in the last 23 years, 29 years has been different journey of me since 94, whenever that is. Yeah, 29 years. So it's been that journey of my own self-discovery of who I am and why I am today. And you've got to be willing to, oh, well, I should be just happy with myself because I'm this age now. No, balderdash. Be
Exactly.
willing to constantly grow and be in wonderment of yourself.
I so agree.
Everything I've done, I have no idea if I could do it or not until I tried. Some of the things are like, oh God, definitely need not. And other things like, wow, I didn't know I could do that. You
What
don't know
fun.
until you try.
But
It
you know
is.
what's so sweet about that? It was like the little child who said, oh, I can do that.
Yes, excited.
Keeping that little child alive who's,
Yes.
oh, I can do that.
Yeah. And the
But
brain
it's
is going like, you can't, you can't. You're going, shut up, I'm doing it.
so what you need is your inner protector, your adult saying, of course you could do that. And you
Yeah,
know what? You critic, I don't want to hear from you. You're not paying.
exactly.
Go.
Exactly. You're
We're here.
not being
Everything's fine.
productive. Off
We
you
don't
go.
need you anymore. Maybe we needed you once. We don't need you
Yeah,
anymore. You're out of a
exactly.
job.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Do not be scared to fire any of your past personas that aren't
Absolutely.
serving you anymore.
You
Please
know,
don't
we don't
drag
need
them
you
along.
anymore. Well,
Yeah,
she has me now. She
yeah,
doesn't need you. Maybe
exactly,
back then she needed you. She doesn't need you now because I'm here and I love her. And no matter what she does, I still love her. And I'll be
exactly.
here for her. I set limits on her, but I'm here for her. And I don't judge her. I teach her, but I don't judge her.
That's the big point. The thing is, be an example for her.
Yes,
Show that inner child that
exactly.
everything that she thought she could be and wanted to be, she has in her own way become.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
say, because of you, because of the dreams that you had, I am here now.
exactly.
Come with me, let's celebrate together. Let's let go of all the pain, all the anguish, and all the suffering. Suffering is a choice. We all have struggles, but whether we suffer in that struggle or not
Sometimes
is our
when you're
choice.
young, I think when you're very
When
young, you
you
don't.
don't have an option there because you don't know the
Yeah.
difference, but when we
Yeah.
know
And
the
I think
difference,
I
it's a
want to
choice.
give you a hug and say, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry that what happened to you. I'm so sorry. If
yes,
I was there, I would have just gotten him out of there, or I would have
yes,
done this, or I would have
yeah,
done that. But I'm so sorry that happened to you. But now you have me. That will never happen again.
exactly. I don't think people really actually understand how important it is to connect to your inner child. We never
And
outgrow
you're
our inner
inner
child.
adolescent. You're
Yes,
inner adolescent too.
yes. We never outgrow our inner child. Our inner child is with us to the day we die, no matter how old we are.
Well,
It's what keeps us young.
people who are all adults are incredibly deadly
Yeah.
and boring. Like if you're all adult, it's a little bit boring. People when the kid, it's more kind of fun and interesting. People are all adult every minute. It's like, oh, deadly.
Yes. And opinionated and judgmental and righteous and everything
Right.
else. I don't want to be one of those people.
They're all
How
cooked.
bitter they are.
They're all cooked. It's much better to have a kid who's growing and evolving
Yes.
and it's just fun.
I had this beautiful Esther Seffron. Every single day of COVID, she wrote a rhyme. Every
Oh,
single day, she's an artist. She's an author. She plays the piano for people, and there she is. She's 83, 84 now. She's dancing. She's enjoying life. The oldest person I've interviewed was 92 with her own own TV show, and
at 92,
at
at
92,
92, I
yep,
love it.
and then at 90, she took a new lover. So, it is never ever over, folks.
Good
It's
for
all a
her.
question of our
Good
attitude,
for her.
right?
Oh, I
Yeah,
love it. What a
I want to
wonderful
be like that
story.
when I grow
Oh,
older. I
I
don't want to be,
wonderful story. But
knitting on a.
her kids inside are still alive.
Yes,
Not
exactly.
this 90-year-old. She's got these alive, curious. Oh, which is such a delight.
Yes, exactly. You want a good relationship with somebody, with a significant other, have a good relationship with yourself. Inspire someone to want to be with you and invite them to match you on your frequency and to
Absolutely.
honor who you are. Then learn to communicate with each other in a way that you listen, you hear, and you embrace.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more.
So, How do people get the book? How do they reach you? I know you've got 3 sites. Can you describe us what each site does?
Sure. It's www.drmarygiuffra.com.
Can you spell the Giuffra for people, please, love, who are listening?
Okay. G like George, I like ice cream, U like use, F Frank, R Robert, A Apple. Giuffra. Some people call it Giuffra, but my husband's family called it Giuffra. So, I inherited it, so to speak.
Right.
Giuffra. So it's
drmarygiuffra.com, right?
drmarygiuffra.com. And then the other one is twocareerfamily.com. And then the third one is 2x2 on the Ark, 5 Secrets of a Great Relationship, which is my book. And you can get that from Barnes and Nobles or Amazon or your local bookstore. And that's available in paperback or in hard copy.
And that 2x2 is the number 2x2.
Yeah, two by
And the
two.
two career
Okay,
family is spelled TWO.
2x2, the number on the Ark, and then
.com.
the 5 Secrets of a Great Relationship. The reason the two giraffe are here is because of our mammalian brain. It's the same brain as animals have. Our cerebral cortex animals don't have, but our emotional brain, mammalian brain, is the exact same as the animals. So it's 2x2 on the Ark, 5 Secrets of a Great Relationship.
And where can people get your book, love?
They can get it at Amazon. They can get it at Barnes and Nobles. They can get it at their local bookstore, but they have to give the name 2x2 on the Ark, 5 Secrets of a Great Relationship. But if you could look on the website, on Amazon or on it's online, you can see it. Or Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Good Books. It's on all of those. And there are reviews. So I think it's kind of an easy read. It's not, the reviews say that it's not heavy or preachy. It's just light. And it's kind of when you have a disagreement or you need to get a break or you don't know what's happening, just pick it up and start looking, and it'll give you a break from what you're upset about and give you a chance to get away from it and to find an answer out. You know what I mean?
And then there's no age bracket on this either. I mean, give it to your teens.
Teenagers use it.
Yeah.
And 80, 90-year-olds, because you're a 90-year-old who's getting a relationship, I admire her.
Yeah, exactly. So it's never too late with the right attitude, right?
It's every relationship people are in. It's leave space, operate your brains. You have thoughts, you have emotions or feelings. Thoughts obey logic. You can't reason with an emotion. It's like the weather: tornado, sunny, stormy, rainy, beautiful. And then the brainstem is the survival brain, where your trauma is. So you either want to fight, want to run away, or you freeze. And that's where the freeze is, that you react to it. So somebody does or says something. It's old trauma that's getting activated. It's not about this person.
And if you are on the other side of that, then I hear you. You know that it's something that's happened in the past and isn't to do with me. How can I help you go through this? Show compassion, show love. Don't start yelling and screaming at each other, because that's not going to help anything.
Space between you and them. If they do something, pull away and leave space. Leave space for it. Leave space for love and operate your brains. Is this a thought that's reasonable? Is it an emotion? Just listen to it, give it space, don't react.
Spend it, get rid of it. Yep.
And as this a trauma, give space for that. I'm here for you. We'll deal with this later. Maybe we need to pull away. You're getting upset, he's getting upset, she's getting upset, she's getting upset. Just allow some space to get away.
Josh Williams.
To get away.
You got somebody trying to get a hold of you.
Desperately. Putting off the phone.
The other thing is find an outlet. It could be art, it could be writing, it could be jogging, could be anything.
What you really
don't have an outlet, go and do something, because that helps you spend that emotion.
How you deal with trauma, and that's what I'm saying. If trauma gets triggered, you don't go for the trauma. Trauma means your body feels unsafe. So the first thing you have to do is to help your body to feel safe. So you may think of something pleasant. You may give your dog a hug. You may take a walk, whatever. Think of some nice experience. Look at a painting or something that makes you happy. Think of a lovely experience that you had, so that you all of a sudden then feel safe again. Because trauma is a freeze that you shut down. So you have to thaw out by feeling a little safety in your body. Even give yourself a hug. I'm here.
Exactly.
it's so important when you're in a freeze or a trauma, when a person shuts down, that means because they're unsafe. So either if you're with them, if you can try to be there with them, touch their foot, touch their head. But if they don't want you, then just give them space.
Yeah. 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 And just, don't take it personally. They're going
Exactly.
through something. Don't take it personally,
It's
right?
their life history that's being triggered or touched.
And we
You're
can
not
all
their
have that.
mother, you're not their mother, you're not their
Yeah.
father, you're not their sister, you're not their abuser. You're just you. But they're responding as if you are mother, father,
Yeah.
abuser, or,
Mm.
employer, abusive employer, or whatever. And you need to know that this is me. That's their issues. That has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Right. Be
Like when I got
compassionate,
it.
be loving, and give them what they need, right? And you
Yeah.
have social media. What are those links, love?
The social media are the same thing, same names, Dr.
Right.
Mary Giuffra, and I just have Dr. Mary Giuffra on the social media.
Is that Facebook or LinkedIn?
Yeah, both. Oh, I have
Mm.
Dr. Mary Giuffra on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I also have Two Career Family.
Okay, wonderful. So we can get hold of you in any which way, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Congratulations on 60 years of marriage. That is a feat in itself. And for putting all your experience in this format of what you do, what you're teaching and your book, it's so easy to blame the other person when really it's your own baggage that you're carrying and we don't know that we're carrying it. And so it's really necessary that we have those tools and those skills that make us aware
And
of,
also compassion for the
yes,
scared little kid, that traumatized little kid, or that traumatized young person. Rather than judging them, it's you're doing the best you can, and I'm here for you, and we'll work this out. And if we can, I'll get help for you. And this is
yeah,
too much now. We need to take a break. Let's go
yes,
have a walk, get an ice cream, get away from
yeah,
this. Do something fun. Enough. Like let's move away to feel someplace that you feel happy and safe. And I'm
right.
always here from you. And I'm not perfect. I'm sorry. I'm sometimes not understanding, or you feel like I'm abandoning you, and maybe I am. I'm doing the best I can, but no, I'm always here for you.
That's the
And
big
let's
C, compassion,
yeah, and
compassion.
let me know a way when you really feel that you need me. Give me some kind of a sign and we'll work at it. So if I feel the pain in my stomach or the pain in my neck, that means I need to take a break and look at you and be there for you.
Right, exactly. Be there for each other, folks. Remember, be there for each other because that is the you, them, and your we. And your we is being there for each other through thick and thin, through good and bad, knowing your boundaries, knowing when to take a breath and when to come together in compassion. Know each other and
Yeah.
know yourselves.
And give space to you and take care of you and love you and protect you. And don't let anyone harm you or anyone abuse you. Your responsibility as an adult is to take care of those little kids who are neglected or abandoned. And if you do it a little bit, apologize and make up for it. But you need to be there, no matter who's on the other side. You protect that child, that adolescent, or that young adult.
Yeah. You are with you for the rest of your life.
Love
So
it.
make sure that you travel with love and compassion for yourself, that you're there for yourself from the inside out on every level of your being. And make sure too that you are looking at life with optimism, with belief, with love, with compassion for others, because it will help you see life in a totally different way. So thank you so much for being with us here today, Mary.
It was lovely. I so enjoyed being with you.
I really enjoyed
Bye.
you being here.
Bye.
Thank you. Until next time, folks, remember, any relationship you have out there starts with the relationship you have in here. Take the journey. I promise you it is worth it. Stepping into your own self-love and learning to love yourself and each other is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourselves, but humanity as a whole. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.